Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. We're coming at you with our Season 37 tier list. Going into this next season here, we're going to be taking all of the decks currently in Master Duel and throwing them here on this list to determine if they're tier 1, 2, 3, or Rogue. Now, as always, the parameter for what decks are on here is based off of the popularity rating they have within Diamond and Master rank, according to Untapped, which aggregates data from literally tens of thousands of games. I think 130,000 games were pulled in order to generate this data. So I have 21 decks here. Usually I do like 25 or 30, but this time I decided to pull every deck that had a popularity rating of 1% or higher. So every single deck on here makes up at least 1% of the meta by itself. That is what the determining factor was. There are a lot of people out there in the comment section who are like, well, you didn't include this deck. Are you saying it's below Rogue? Are you saying it's bad? Because it's not. And it's like, no. That's not what I'm saying. If a deck is not on here, it simply was less than 1% of the meta. That is all that means. It doesn't mean I think it's bad. It doesn't mean I think it shouldn't be on this list at all. But that's why it's not on here. So just want to make sure that we're all clear about that. Don't worry. Your favorite deck is still valid. It's my favorite deck too. Totally. Anyway, so yeah, we're going to separate these all into tiers 1, 2, 3, and Rogue. Even if a deck is Rogue, that of course means that it can still do very, very well. I think each of these decks are capable of, getting top 100 Duelist Cup, topping community tournaments, getting into Master 1 and rating duels, what have you. I think you could accomplish any of those goals with any of these decks. So they're all good in their own right. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's start ranking them. Starting off with Kashtira as represented by a Riseheart. That is going to be pretty firmly Rogue. Has anybody even played against this deck? Oh, wait, I did play against... No, that's right. I thought I had played against Kashtira recently. No, wait, I did actually play against the pure Kashtira deck. Sorry, I was mixing up a game I had with Kashtira Snake Eye, but I did actually play against pure Kashtira relatively recently. For the first time in a few months... now that I've ranked down to like Plat Diamond level instead of a Master level where I often have sat in the past, right? So in that regard, I don't think that it's really a deck that there needs to be much concern for. It's an annoying deck, but is it a very good one? Not really. It's probably going to be one of the lowest ranking ones on this whole tier list, so... Makonko, our next deck, is definitely a lot better. I'm going to put that in tier 3. It's just consistently been a very solid combo deck. There's multiple ways you can play it. You can either be a going second OTK type deck. OTK, did I say that correctly? Yeah, OTK type deck. Or you could be more of a warrior combo deck. I think both of those are relatively close to the same power level. I think the warrior pile combo decks for Makonko do tend to be better, though. And, yeah, I think tier 3 is a pretty good spot for them. So, Runic variants. I am actually more optimistic about Runic variants, I think, right now than I am about Kashtira. I think I am, actually, yeah. So, I don't think this actually counted, like, the White Forest variant. Actually, that's a good question if it did or not, and I could tell you the answer to that. Let me see here. Gonna be over here. Okay, so let me do the drop down. I know you can't see this on my end, but I want to make sure. Okay, so if I drop down for Runic, what kind of a breakdown? Oh, so this is White Forest Runic. Okay. Okay, so this is like, I see. They kind of combined White Forest Runic and Paleo Runic are the two main variants that make up this having a 3.7% popularity rating. Only a 47.9% win rate, though. Anyway, again, I know you can't see that info on screen, but I think Upper Rogue is a pretty good spot for it. Now I think about it, it might be a little bit lower than Kashtira. I think these two decks are pretty on par. I'm sure many people find them on par in terms of how much they dislike them, but anyway. I think in terms of power level, these decks are both pretty much in the same spot. And I think, yeah, regardless of if you're playing White Forest or Paleo Runic, like, those are very different decks, but... I think White Forest Runic's probably a little bit better, but they're both probably still in the Rogue power level range. Okay, next up we have Supreme Kings. Oh, that's a good one. As far as like trying to figure out where it goes. I'm gonna put it in a Rogue just above these other two. This might be the deck that borders Rogue in tier 3. Supreme King and various Pendulum variants, including Magispector and Draco Slayer stuff. I guess those are different decks, aren't they? Pendulum variants in general are in a pretty good spot in MD, where they are relevant, they are strong, but they're not so overpowered that they're looking to be, you know, gutted by the ban list. I have no idea why Electromite is still banned in the TCG, other than that the TCG just doesn't want you to play Pendulum. The TCG always just wants you to play whatever the latest stuff is, right? I already had a whole video about that. We don't have to go any further there necessarily. Tearlament. This is a difficult one, actually. Mostly deciding if I want to put it in tier 2 or tier 3. I kind of want to put it at the bottom of tier 2. Actually, I kind of want to put it at the top of tier 3. Let me leave it right here for now. I could see a world where I could be convinced to bump this up to the bottom of tier 2. But for the time being, I think I am going to leave Tearlament right here. Tyranids variants are, I don't know, they're kind of like... Regardless of what tier you actually put them on, I feel like there's still this kind of constant presence in the meta, and I don't mind that. I think they're very interesting decks that have a lot of interesting variants. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at the top of tier 3 for now. I think that's a fine enough spot. Okay, so Ritual Beast. This is a deck that I've mentioned in the past that I've slept on, and I think a lot of us have. So if you look at a pie chart breakdown available on Road of the King of the top 100 Duelist Cup decks, the most represented deck among them is Ritual Beast at 19 point something percent, or might have been 18 point something. Like, Tenpai was just below it. Just below it by like one deck, but, or 1%, but Ritual Beast was still above Tenpai. So here's the thing. This is one of those decks where, like, its spot on the tier list actually depends entirely on who's piloting it. In a good player's hands, this is 100% a tier 1 deck. In most of our hands, including mine, it's probably closer to tier 2 and 3. But I'll put it in tier 1. Yeah, the results, I cannot deny the results, you know? I slept hard on this deck, like I think pretty much all of us did. And I know I'll see the comments of like, oh, well, I always knew it was good. I just always knew it was hard to play. And it's like, okay, yeah, that might be true on an individual basis, but I have seen very, very many comments, both in my own section and on other places of social media, especially when Ritual Beast came out, saying like, oh, this deck is too hard to be worth it. Like, it's too difficult to play. There's just, you know, there's other decks that are available. Just play Tenpai, etc., etc. But I think we all, as a whole, as a community, as a meta, slept pretty hard on this deck and how impactful it would be in Master Duel. I'm not going to make any promises of learning this deck and playing it on the channel. I might like to. I'm very intimidated at the prospect of doing it, but maybe someday. Anyway, yeah, I think Ritual Beast is quite good. I'm going to put it in tier 1. I don't even necessarily think that it's overall the best deck in the meta, but I do think a lot of us were sleeping on it pretty hard. Centurion. I'm going to put that in tier 2. That's probably the bottom of tier 2. You know what? Okay, that's actually a good question, a good distinction point between tiers 2 and 3. Do I think Centurion is better than Tearlament? I think they're pretty close, actually. I think they're pretty much on par. Well, the thing that makes them so difficult to compare with one another is the fact that they're kind of opposite ends of the consistency power spectrum. Centurion is very, very consistent. It's probably just the most consistent deck in the meta right now. But its end board isn't quite as powerful as a lot of other decks, like Tearlament. Tearlament has the ability to generate some insane end boards, depending on how well they open and mill. Or sometimes you just kind of have to go, like, roll close, pass, like, you know? Yeah, so that's where I kind of have difficulty comparing them. I'm going to leave Centurion in tier 2, and I'm going to leave Tearlament at the top of tier 3 for now. That's fine. Okay. Voiceless Voice. Okay. I'm going to put this deck at, like, the top of Tier 2. You could debate this maybe being a Tier 1 deck right now. It's very interesting, and this is something that we've noted a lot, or I've noted anyway a lot on recent tier lists, is that the lines between Tiers 1 to 3 are just so muddied, which is really an indication of how fairly balanced the power level of all of these decks are in the grand scheme of things. Like, even if you look at the decks that are just on this list right now, is Ritual Beast really that much more powerful than Makonko? No, I think the gap between them is fairly small. And I think the gap between Tier 1 and Tier 3 being really small is a really good place to be as far as, like, power balance goes. I've said this every single time. Master Duel is in a really good spot, and has been for quite some time in a really good spot as far as balancing goes. A lot of people like to act like that's not the case, but it really is, honestly. Whether you enjoy the meta is an entirely different question, but I don't think you can deny that it is pretty balanced, and again, has been for quite some time. Okay, Tenpai. So this is going to be post-ban list Tenpai. I didn't really make that specification before because it really didn't matter to any other deck on here. But this is a post-ban list take. So that's where we're going to rate Tenpai. So with Sangin, Summoning, and Shundra going down to 1 each, I think Tenpai is still going to be a Tier 2 deck. I might even be willing to still put it over Centurion. It's definitely going to see play. It's not going to see as much play, but is going to see play. And I think for that reason alone, it's got to be in Tier 2. So I think I might do this, actually. That looks good to me. Yeah. Yeah, because I could see a world where Tenpai just starts to fall off. I could see a world where I'm wrong right now, and just not that many people end up playing Tenpai post-ban list. Ban lists do tend to shift opinion. This is always why popularity and power rating have to be separate considerations, right? Because Tenpai is going to get a lot less popular, but I think it might actually get... Oh my god, how do you phrase this? I think the gap between its current popularity... Oh my god, no, that's not a succinct way to say that. Oh my god, I think that... The difference between its popularity now and post-ban list is going to be greater than its power level difference between now and post-ban list, if that makes any sense. Like... I think Tenpai is going to fall off, but it might actually end up falling off harder than it actually should, given how good it will be. We'll see, we'll see, we'll see. I mean, I think in best of one, there's always going to be, like how there was always a group of Numeron players, right? I think in that regard, there's probably always going to be a group of Tenpai players. Well, this one this one we will really have to see how it shakes out. Oh my goodness, if I can get the words out. Okay. Yubel, I'm going to put in Tier 1. But I might put it below Ritual Beast. Okay, and we have Snake Eye right here, which I'm also going to put in Tier 1. Snake Eye and its variants, mostly Fire King Snake Eye, we saw perform pretty well in the Duelist Cup Top 100. Even if Snake Eye Fire King isn't a deck that's nearly as popular on ladder. Just trying to figure out what combination I want to put these in, or what order, rather. I don't think Ritual... So you might think, like, oh, if Ritual Beast had the most representation of any deck in the Duelist Cup, then surely it's just the best deck right now, right? I'm going to put it at the bottom of Tier 1, and I think that's mostly an acknowledgement of the fact that it is difficult to play, and, like, in the vast majority of players' hands, it is not the best deck in the format. But I actually still think Yubel is better than Fire King Snake Eye. I think it's a little more consistent anyway. Well, yeah, I think it is. I think it might be a little stronger too. I'm going to leave Tier 1 looking like that. I think that looks solid. As always as ever, if you disagree, feel free to let me know in the comments. Discourse is always welcome. Rudeness isn't though, but y'all know that by now. But I think that looks fine for Tier 1 for now. True Draco, as represented by Masterpiece. I was really surprised when I saw True Draco at first, and then I remembered, oh yeah, Masterpiece was recently made legal, so that's why it's got a decent popularity buff. It's actually at like 1.5% popularity. But I'm going to put it down here. This is just going to end up being the lowest ranked deck on this tier list. Masterpiece is annoying, but not... It's not even a problem anymore, honestly. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, because everyone's like, oh, it's... You play Cashier Package, and it's so easy to tribute a monster and a spell, and it's like... Somebody who has played the Gate Guardian deck and resolved and successfully summoned Dark Guardian multiple times, which is their boss monster that is also unaffected by monster and spells. Let me tell you that every time I've ever summoned that card, it got impermed and then destroyed. And I imagine that is just what's going to happen to your masterpieces. Like, it'll get there sometimes, but I don't think that'll be enough of the time. Dragon Link is going to be our next deck here. Barely above 1%, but it's still seeing a good bit of play. I'll put it here. Yeah, between the Supreme King and Kashtira. It's definitely better than Kashtira. That's a good spot for it. Yeah, we'll leave it there. So Salamangreat. Okay, this one I think might actually end up just being the top of, if I can get it there, Rogue. There we go. Because its win rate has been very surprising, actually. It's been up there as far as its win rate goes. I gotta revisit Salamangreat in the near future. Definitely want to remember to do that. You know, I wonder if it's because it has the ability to do, like, multiple board wipes and disruption when it goes first. So then when you play against Tenpai, even if they, like, combo during the main phase, you could use one board wipe on just the field spell and then one board wipe on the rest of the board. Because that's something I didn't really mention as much about the Ritual Beast decks, too, but a lot of the Ritual Beasts were really geared to play going first. They were really ready to play against Tenpai. They were all maining a playset of Solemn Judgment and at least one Floodgate. There was one that was maining Iron Thunders as well as Solemn Judgment and Floodgates to play against Tenpai, right? So I can see that being why Salamangreat is doing so well. Not necessarily the Floodgate thing as much, but just the fact that you can play going first and you have multiple board wipes and you can play around a lot of game states that Tenpai would present you with. Labyrinth. Am I about to put Labyrinth in tier 3? I think I am, actually. Yeah, I am. I'm going to put it above Tier Limits, though. I think it is a little bit better than Tier Limit. It kind of feels weird, because Lab hasn't really gotten any worse. But I think it is more that just every other deck is getting better. And true, Lab is still getting tools in the forms of trap cards, and I assume that's still going to get future support. It's a very popular archetype. Oh, and one of the characters on Big Welcome we haven't seen yet, so it is getting more future support at some point. But yeah, I think from just a sheer power level perspective, it's just starting to slide down. Of course, again, does not mean it's a bad deck, but it's just that everything else as it's coming out is getting a little bit better and better as time goes on. Ooh, Chimera is next. Okay, this is a deck that has gotten a lot better, not only since Nightmare Apprentice came out, but also Diabels have offered a lot of options for Chimera. I think I'm actually going to put it in Tier 2. It saw a lot of success in the Duelist Cup, and even before then, you were seeing it a lot more often in the meta as the illusion support gets better and better. And I think it will be better than post-banless Tenpai. Do I think post-banless Tenpai is better than Lab? I think they're about on par, so I think I'm going to leave this looking as it is. Gimmick Puppet. This is a deck that you don't see on ladder a lot. You see it more often in tournaments and such. I hardly have any experience playing against this deck. I know that, well, here's the thing, right? The thing about Gimmick Puppet is that if it ever does reach a point where it's becoming a mainstay in the meta, then decks just start maining DD Crow and Mass. And then that makes Gimmick Puppet a lot worse. It has a really, really easy counter in that regard. And you'll see that in tournaments and Duelist Cup top decks, where they're teching DD Crow a lot more often than ranked ladder decks are to beat Gimmick Puppet. And, I mean, we haven't seen Gimmick Puppet do anything super duper crazy in those kinds of tournaments or Duelist Cup just yet. We did see it in the Duelist Cup, just not, like, everywhere or anything. Yeah, I'm going to put Gimmick Puppet in Tier 3, but I'll put it below Makanko. And that might be a little bit controversial to some people, but I think that's a fine enough spot for it. Mathmech has seen a lot of popularity, and also a good bit of success as well. Makes sense, it's got a pretty good Tenpai matchup, but it's also just a solid deck in its own right. Do I think... Okay, now here is the question. Do I think it's better than Lab? I think it's close, but I think the answer is probably yes. Do I think it's better than Post-Banless Tenpai? Yes, but I don't think it's better than Chimera, so I'm going to put it here. Yeah, that's a good spot for it. I like it there. Live Twin Sprite, barely sneaking in. This had a 1% popularity rating. I was going to make it an even 20 decks that we were going to look at. And I was going to say everything that had above 1%. But when I saw the only deck at exactly 1.0% was Twin Sprite, I was like, well, I can't just leave out Twin Sprite. I'm going to put it in Rogue, though. I think it's on the upper end of Rogue, but I think it is a pretty decidedly Rogue deck. I would love to be generous and call it Tier 3, but I really can't in this meta. If you look at these Tier 3 decks, I think they are significantly better than something like Twin Sprite. Okay, so DML I have representing White Forest. This is mostly, like, quote-unquote pure variants, or just variants with only toy stuff, or mixed in with Centurion. Again, most White Forest Runic variants were covered under the Runic Veil, and I think Lower Rogue on this tier list is a good spot for them. Now, I really, really like White Forest. I think it's really, really cool. It's a very, very cool engine. But as much as I like it, and as much as I want to put it in Tier 3, I want to put this at the bottom of Tier 3, but I don't think I actually can. I think it's got to be the top of Rogue. I think White Forest and its variants tend to be... Well, the data says that they're not necessarily better than Salaman Great, but I think they are generally about on par with each other. I'll put it upper Rogue. I think that's a fine spot. I think Gimmick Puppet tends to be better than those kinds of White Forest variants. And finally, Branded. I usually put Branded pretty close to where Lab is, and I think I'm going to continue to do that. I don't know, you could make an argument for putting it like up here as well. See, if we're thinking about ranked ladder, I guess Tenpai is kind of the main thing I'm thinking about here, right? For ranked ladder, I think Tenpai should be at the bottom of Tier 2, even post-ban list. For a tournament setting, I think I would bump Tenpai down to Tier 3. It's weird. Whenever I do ban lists, I never know which angle I want to look at it from. But let me look at where everything's at right now. I agree with Tier 1. I agree with, it's my own list. I'm satisfied with where everything is within Tier 1. I'm satisfied with the first 3 decks in Tier 2 and their placement. Actually, Chimera is probably just better than Centurion. I'm satisfied with Mathmech being there. I'm satisfied with... I guess Tenpai and Branded are kind of the two big things I'm debating. I'm going to bring Branded up to Tier 2 above Tenpai. I think that's right. Okay. That's where my tier list is going to look like. That's where it's sitting at for Season 37. Yeah, I'm going to leave it there. So, like I said before, definitely let me know what you think in the comments below. And yeah, I think that's going to go ahead and do it. So we'll have to see what these next packs bring us. I am recording this on December 29th right now, so by the time this video goes out, there could very easily be big news that would completely shatter this tier list. I guess I'm kind of hoping that's not the case, but we'll have to see. Anyway, thanks, folks, as always, for watching. And yeah, let's just go ahead and move on now to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Just want to give you a huge thanks for watching all the way to the very end of the video. Believe it or not, that is actually one of the best ways that you can support the channel, is by watching the videos in their entirety. But there are many ways in which you can support the channel if you are so interested. The names that you're seeing on screen here, I gotta give an extra special thanks to, because these are people who have chosen to either become a member on YouTube, which if you're interested you can do as well via the join button next to the subscribe button down there, or have signed up over on Patreon and become members there. Link to that is going to be in the description below. Without the support that is being offered by, again, all the people that you're seeing on screen right here, I would not be able to take the time to dedicate to uploading daily YouTube videos. So thank you so very much. But there are also other ways you can support as well. Again, link to the description below. If you like my deck tracker that you'll see in a lot of my videos, the Untapped Companion, you can download that for free, and if you use my affiliate link down there, then that also goes a long way towards supporting the channel. That's again free. So is subscribing here on YouTube. That's also free and a huge way to support. You can also check out Twitch, once again linked in the description below. Following and subscribing over there will not only support as well, but also give you notifications of when I go live if you want to catch some of the live streams. But really, no matter how you choose to support, it all adds up and it all definitely means the world. So thank you, each and every one of you. For now, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, but more than that, I'm hoping that you have a fantastic day.